Welcome to Your Biz, Your Rules, the podcast for business-minded go-getters hosted by me, your favourite brain and biz coach, Dara Paddy. This is the spot for those of you ready to blend heart and head, woo and do, income and impact, change and chill, and so much more. So grab yourself a cuppa and let's get started. Welcome to episode 220 of Your Biz, Your Rules. In this show, I'm going to be sharing some of my best time-saving tips for the business obsessed because, if we're being honest, that's me. And I'm not ashamed of that. I am obsessed with my business. I'm invested. I'm committed. And in the past, that has sometimes had me in the workaholic, zero work-life balance camp. But that's not my reality anymore. It didn't just happen though, I had to choose it. I had to decide that as much as I love my business, it can't consume my every waking thought. And if you are at that point in your life too, then this episode is going to contain some really great gems that will probably help you make a serious change. I know that when I've been in habits of just being constantly in work mode and constantly having work tasks on a treadmill in my brain, my physical and my mental health both suffer. My relationships get chipped away at. The quality of my work is definitely diminished, which as a high achiever I do not appreciate. And the amount I actually enjoy my work decreases too, which is a massive bummer because we go into our businesses for ourselves because we love what we do. We love our mission. So none of that is really what I want. And I suppose the question for you is that what you want? Do you want to be thinking about work so much that you let your physical and mental health slide? Do you want to be thinking about work so much that you constantly dismiss your partners and ignore your friends? Do you want to be thinking about work so much that you don't actually have the bandwidth to do a great job? Do you want to be thinking about work so much that you get sick of it? Probably not. And don't get me wrong, it does take a little bit of thought, a little bit of planning, and a little bit of discipline to take time away from your business and hand it over to your personal life. But it is well worth that bit of effort. I have zero regrets on this front. Let's dive into some of the tips that I have that can help you start making these changes right away. So the first thing that I'm going to suggest is start creating some clear boundaries around communication and access to you. And this doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be drastic, but it does have to be something that you can stick with. So what I chose to do when I really started to prioritize this, creation of some balance, was to set rules for myself about how I engage with everyone around me. So one really simple way to do this was relating to my inbox. So I created an email autoresponder that outlines how many times I will check my emails in a day and the estimated period of time it will take for me to get back to people. What I also did was create almost an FAQ section in that autoresponder that answers a lot of the most frequent questions that I receive. And so more often than not, I don't even need to then go and respond to an email because the autoresponder did it for me. Still in the realm of inbox, I stick with what I said in that autoresponder. If I say that I check my inbox once a day or I check my inbox twice a day, then I force myself to stick with that. Whereas previously, I always used to have a tab open for my emails and I could see that little number in brackets every time I received something new and I would hop over and just have a look. And it was a massive time suck and energy suck. So actually sticking with the boundaries that you set for yourself and others is a game changer. Something that I also did was a similar sort of thing with Voxer and with Slack. So I got really real with myself about my availability on both of those platforms and communicated it with the people involved. So, my VA knows within what hours I will be available on Slack. My clients know within what hours I'll be available on Voxer. And they're also aware of my response times. Like sometimes I'll respond quicker, but I do have depending on the platform, a window of time before they can expect a response from me. Something else that was really helpful was to remove the apps in question from my phone. And if I can't remove the apps, switch off the notifications. So for example, I deleted Slack completely off my phone. So I only see Slack when I'm logged into my computer in work mode. Whereas Voxer, I can't really delete it off my phone because that's the only place I use it. But I did switch off the notifications so I don't get pinged every time someone sends me a message. And those two little switches have been really, really, really helpful. And on the topic of Voxer, I kind of batch my action there. So I jump in on a Monday, every Monday, and I will check in with all of my clients on a Monday. So I'll ask them how they are, I'll see what we're celebrating, what we're working on, what support they need, all of that stuff. And I have a slot in my calendar where I'll do that every single Monday. And then once a day for the rest of the week, I will jump in and respond to any responses that I've received and continue any conversations. But I do it in that one single slice of time. So I'm not constantly going back into the app and having little bits of conversation here and there, because that's not helpful when my goal is to really save the time and save the energy that I'm expending. Another tip that I really, really recommend, especially if you have support in your business, is to have honest discussions with the team that you have around you. So you know that I, micro team over here, I have one VA, so this really just involved a conversation with one person. But share what you need and what your priorities are, and ask what they can do to help. So when I express to my VA that I am trying to work less because my health was not so good, or I'm trying to work less because I've noticed myself feeling really drained and uninspired, or whatever it is, they are then aware that I might need more help. And the way that I frame these conversations is to ask them how they can contribute. So if I say this is my intention, can you help me? And they say yes. Whenever I then have a new idea that I want to create or something new to put work into, I will share the idea and I'll ask, how can you help? And it's almost like we're co-creating the structure of our working agreement as we do that. So it's not just me always saying, do this, do this, do this, and delegating everything. It's us having a two-way conversation. And that is so helpful because it feels like I'm not on my own. It feels like I'm not carrying the weight of every thought and every decision. So just having an honest conversation with the people you work with can be transformative. If you want to hear a little bit more about how I work with my very tiny team, then definitely go listen to episode 210, where I talk about some of my favorite ways to outsource to my VA. I'll link to that episode in the show notes so you can hop on after this. But I love the way that we work together, I really do. My next tip for you is to start setting up some smart workflows. So setting up standard operating procedures, or SOPs, is one of the simplest ways to save yourself time and energy on a pretty much daily basis. And it can be really, really easy to do. Simply look at all of the different things that take place in your business and just get clear on all of the steps involved. And that, in its most base form, is a workflow. That is an SOP. So examples of things you might create workflows for are sending your weekly newsletter, setting up a new lead magnet, creating a digital product, maybe managing your free Facebook group or your paid Facebook group, onboarding or offboarding clients, gathering and sharing testimonials, producing your podcast or YouTube show, hosting group calls. Honestly, anything that you can do on a repeated basis in your business, you can create an SOP for. My VA Danny actually has an amazing resource for creating workflows, for creating SOPs. So I'll pop a link to that in the show notes, but it's well worth checking out if you want to start getting started with this. Want to start getting started? How many times can I say start in a single episode? But you know what I mean. If you want to start experimenting with workflows and getting them to work in your business, then that is a great resource to dive into. Another tip to share with you, and the one you're probably sick of hearing me talking about at this point, is batching tasks of a kind. You already know I'm a big fan of batching. And while I predominantly talk about batching in terms of your marketing content, because that is what I teach in Batch Like a Bitch, the same principle can be applied to other areas of your business. So look at your upcoming projects and tasks and ask yourself which steps can be grouped together because they need the same type of energy, the same type of tool, the same office setup, the same sort of mood, and start structuring the way you work in that way. So let's look at a few examples. Maybe you could batch your email writing. So instead of doing all of these separately, you could check in with former clients, send documents to your accountant, respond to your emails, and send that PDF guide to a client that you promised them. You could batch paying all of your invoices in one go. You could batch all of your graphic design in one go. So maybe you sit down and you create quote graphics for Instagram, you put together your new cover photo, you knock up the module graphics for your latest course all in one sitting. In Voxer, I shared my sort of batching system in Voxer already, but check in with all of your clients in one go instead of just jumping it in at random. And then another really great way to batch is to draft the content for a month's worth of newsletters at once instead of doing it on the day that you're going to be sending it out. There are so many different ways that you can be sort of bringing in the model of batching into your business. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be draining. It doesn't have to be stressful. I think that's the rep that batching has. So many people are very, very resistant. But honestly, when you start looking at it in a different way, you can open a lot of windows for more time and more energy in your workday. If you already know that batching is something you'd be interested in exploring, I highly recommend you check out Batch Like a Bitch. During the 30-day bootcamp, we will sit together and hone a content creation and distribution system that really works for you and your business. It's also guaranteed to save you a significant amount of time each week, so it's well worth your consideration. I've put the link to the information page in the show notes, so do go check it out when you have a moment. My final time-saving tip for the business obsessed is the question of discernment. So be intentional about what you commit to. I get it, we often see opportunities that we had not been anticipating. We often get ideas that we hadn't been planning for. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't run with those and that you shouldn't take advantage of whatever comes your way. I'm asking you to question it. When something new crosses your path, just ask yourself, if I'm saying yes to this, what am I saying no to? And if you're okay with that exchange, by all means, go for it. If you're not, then it might be a case of just rethinking things or reprioritizing things. This is something that I really bring into every decision I make in my business these days, because I do have a tendency to run off and chase my inspiration. And honestly, just asking myself that question pulls me back. It pulls me back on track and reminds me of this intention that I have to be a little bit more focused, to be a little bit more cohesive in what I'm doing, and to make sure that I'm having the rest and the downtime that I need. So for this week's action step, I want you to choose just one of the tips from this episode and start implementing it today. Bonus points if you come over and share it with me on Instagram. You know I love hearing from you guys in my DMs. Next week, I'm going to be sharing a whole bunch of ways that you can celebrate your birthday as a business owner, because like, you probably guessed it by now, but next week is my birthday, so I thought I would record an episode on that kind of theme. So I will see you back here for that. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to Your Biz, Your Rules. I know that we all like to listen to podcasts, watch videos, read articles or books or posts on Facebook and not really do anything with that information. So I want to challenge you right now. I want to challenge you to take something from this episode, anything, and use it to spark action. Use it to activate some kind of change in the way you work and the way you live. Do yourself this service today and tell me all about it on Instagram. Hop over, shoot me a DM or share an Instagram story showcasing what action you are taking thanks to this episode. And of course, do all of the usual things. Subscribe, leave a review, let me know how much you love the show, and I will be back with you next week.